crypto fundraising after end of Roe, Tepid. I hope I pronounced that properly so far. So straight from the article here, and I actually like this article, and we've talked about different charitable aspects that can occur in crypto and kind of bringing communities together from all across the world. But basically, there's a couple different projects that are trying to do good things for people that could be impacted in specific states because of Roe versus Wade. And it's a very interesting thing that, well, it's a very unfortunate thing that's happening with some of the recent headlines. But there was Choice DAO, and they wanted to go ahead and create a DAO to raise money for reproductive right organizations. And then there was legalabortion.eth, which was an initiative by Unicorn DAO. And basically you can send crypto donations to pro-choice groups. And then of course, Cowgirl DAO, which is selling an NFT collection to raise funds for abortion access with a goal of $3 million. Whether you agree with this or not, I think that we can all come together and say that crypto can be used for the greater good to help raise funds and awareness for different aspects or different social issues that may occur. We saw this with Ukraine, and I've actually personally raised close to $70,000 for a local nonprofit community center, the Self-Care Lab, mostly with crypto donations. And they use mental health as a form of therapy for inner city kids and people like myself. So I think crypto is a great tool for that. And I would like to actually hand this over to Adam.
Well, for me, the kind of interesting story here again draws back to sort of the basics, which is that, we're talking about, for as long as people have been doing DAOs, and I think the first paper about, at the time they were called distributed autonomous corporations, was published back in 2013. People have been, on the one hand, really kind of entranced with the idea and have attempted to do many different things with it. And on the other hand, it's actually kind of struggled to find a real utility that goes beyond like creating a big pile of money in a smart contract that you can then distribute using the people who put that money in to help make the decisions about how you're going to distribute it. So I think in the context of what we're talking about here, there's two interesting things. One is that this is a political issue. And I think that it's interesting to see politics make their way into the world of cryptocurrency, which has typically been very libertarian and kind of hands-off, not so much about social issues, but about like what is the government's role in things, and especially the federal government. So I think that's an interesting element. And then the other thing that jumped out at me is that the people who are behind this DAO, who are also behind the Constitution DAO and a couple of other DAOs out there too, which was somewhat interesting to me, the Ukraine DAO, I think, as well. So I think that there's also just this group of people who have figured out, we can use DAOs as a vehicle to raise money for things that we care about, and they're now going around and doing that and sort of perfecting their craft. So that's interesting too. And, again, if we can figure out ways for DAOs really to kind of be meaningful and be better than the alternatives, then that's fantastic. And frankly, I don't really care what issue we find that around. It's all about utility to me. Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think over the past year, we've seen that DAOs and NFTs have enabled people to really pile a bunch of money together very quickly and then do things with that money in a really transparent way. To see the fundraising for this be so slow in comparison to Ukraine DAO, the COVID-19 relief we saw in India, I think is partially credited to the market and the psychology around the markets, right? When we saw crypto being raised for the Canadian truckers in Canada, we saw a lot of onboarding for people who had never used crypto before, getting involved, opening wallets, getting money to the people who they wanted to get the money to. I think when the market is down and people feel like they are less rich, although they're still holding the same coins in their wallet, they are maybe less likely to contribute that money to something they would consider philanthropic, and someone who's never used crypto before may be reluctant to, just given the headlines we're seeing. So I think that may be partially why this has gone a little bit slower than we're used to. But Wendy, I'll give you last words before we wrap.
I just want to say it's probably because of what this is going to raise money for, because there's a lot of interesting things that do happen in crypto on a daily basis. I won't get into that on this show, but it's probably because of that particular cause. And again, also people, the current market.